Hello everyone, this is Dr. R. Bhuneshwari, Associate Professor, Department of Home Science, Sri Sharda College for Women, Salem 16. Today we are going to discuss about decision making. Now let us see about the introduction. Everyone makes decisions every day. Some decisions are easier to make than the others. Some decisions can be made quickly, while others they take more time and we have to think a lot. If we are like most people, we have some decisions that we are proud that we made them. At the same time, there are other decisions that we wish we never had made or we had the opportunity to change. This is particularly true in cases where we have more knowledge now than when we made the decisions. Now let us see about the process of decision making. So decision making is nothing but the action taken in selecting from various causes of action. Decision making is inseparable in any phase of management, and the quality of decision determines the quality of management. Decision making is an important aspect of daily living and is essential at every step in the life. Decision making is crucial in management process. Management decisions are purposeful decisions involving any broad spectrum of resources. So, knowledge of essential information, application of the knowledge in the required situation, one needs to be aware of what is involved in decision making, who makes the decision, where and when decisions are made, and how decision making affects our day to day life. Now we are coming to the importance and scope of decision making. So decision making is the heart of management process. It deals with the choice of one course of action from among the alternatives. Some decisions are made routinely and some are made for the lifetime. Decisions are motivated by values and goals and are checked against standards. Now we are seeing the meaning of decision making. A decision is a choice between two or more alternatives. When a decision is made, is that when you have two or more alternatives, we have to choose among the alternative, and that is where decision making comes into process. This implies three things. When managers make decisions, they are choosing. They are deciding what to do on the basis of some conscious and deliberate logic or judgment. Managers have alternatives available when they are making a decision. It does not require a wise manager to reach a decision when there are no other possible choices. It does not require wisdom and experience to evaluate several alternatives and select the best one. Managers have a purpose in mind when they make decision. There would be no reason for carefully making a choice among alternatives unless the decision brings them closer to some goal. Now, decision-making process itself is a long one. So, decision-making is a process which consists of activities which results in the choice of an alternative or a course of action. This process is sometimes long or sometimes short. In decision-making process, there never is an absolutely correct solution to any problem. There is always more than one way of solving a problem. The solution which gives the greatest satisfaction or yields maximum returns to the individuals concerned for the particular situation is the most desirable one. The process of decision making by family will depend on its values and goals. Effective decision making occurs when the choice among the alternatives is arrived at through a logical, thoughtful process. Now, there are 5 important steps involved in decision-making process as given by Adgis et al. 1985. So the first one is defining the problem. The second step is identifying the alternatives. And third step is choosing the alternatives. The fourth one is selecting one of the alternative. And fifth one is accepting the consequences of your action. In the first phase of decision making process, it is recognizing and defining the problem. The first step in decision making is the recognition of the problem or situation and then definition of the problem. Decision making will not take place until you recognize it is necessary. This process of recognition involves being aware of the factors that initiate or indicate the need for a decision. Unless there is clarity regarding difficulty, one cannot go through effective decision-making process. The problem is situation must be analyzed with all the relevant information required to identify the accurate problem and specify why the problem has risen, what the reasons are, and what further information is needed. It has been emphasized that recognizing that a decision has to be made is the first part of the decision-making process. One must not only recognize the decision needs to be made, but one should also be aware of the factors that have created or brought about this need. Example, homemaker is not able to finish her work in time. And the reason for this can be no planning on the part of the homemaker, or she may not have any assistance or a helping maid, or maybe she is employed, or her family members may not share her work. Now, seeking alternatives. Once a problem is correctly identified and analyzed, then one should seek information on the relevant alternatives. Effective decision making occurs when all the alternatives are identified. This will enable the best selection. Many times after a decision is made and implemented, one would say, I did not think of other alternative at the time of the decision making. Had I thought of that and implemented it, would have been worked better. Hence, we should identify all the alternatives within our reach so that it helps us to make a wise decision. For example, if a housewife wants to get a blouse stitched, she has 3 or 4 choices. The first one is she can go for a ready-made blouse, or she can buy a material and get it stitched from a tailor, or she can ask her friend to stitch. Now, the next step in the decision-making process is thinking through the alternative. This phase of decision-making is very important and need to be done very objectively. This is a mental process of seeing through the consequences for each alternative systematically. Essentially, one must think through the advantages and disadvantages of each available alternative. After identifying the alternatives, each alternative should be evaluated for its feasibility and its short-term and long-term effects. These are based on the goals, values, and standards that form the yardsticks by which one can evaluate and eliminate the alternatives that are not relevant and feasible. If the decisions are affecting the lifestyle or long-term goal, it may take time and need discussions among the family members for analyzing each and every alternative. The criterion for evaluating alternatives is an integral part of the decision-making process. Example. Let us continue with the same example. The first alternative of choosing a ready-made blouse has the advantages of saving time and effort in finding a tailor to stitch it, the time the tailor would take to stitching, the trip to the tailor to get the blouse back. The disadvantage is that it may not fit properly, or it may cost more, and the seams may not be strong. Now, if we go with the second alternative of getting it stitched from the tailor, then the advantage is that the blouse would fit properly because it is being stitched by a professional person. The disadvantage is that it may cost more. And the third alternative of getting it stitched from a friend has the advantage of getting the blouse stitched quickly and saving money. And the disadvantage is that it may not fit properly because it may not be well finished. Choosing an alternative. Choosing an alternative from several is the fourth stage of decision making. In order to make this phase effective, accurate evaluation of the possible effects of the alternatives is at most important. On the basis of analyzing the alternative, the choice of one alternative is made. The choice itself is the decision. The future consequences should be accurately foreseen. The selection of an alternative is simple, but because of the uncertainty of the future regarding the changes in the environment, this step becomes a little difficult. The goal of the family, the standards, and the resources would become important criteria by which each individual or family selects one alternative. Now, the last step is accepting the consequence of the decision. Once the decision has been made, we must accept the consequences, even if the decisions are right or wrong. So, this is a fundamental phase of decision making, which is often ignored by many people. The ability to accept the consequence of decision is the great asset for making future decisions. Each decision making process is a learning exercise for every individual. The results of one decision could produce further evaluating criteria for further decision, which whether it is positive or negative. This will help to refine the skill necessary to make rational decisions. This step creates self-confidence in people to make effective decisions in the future. Now coming to the classification of decision. The decision makers have classified the decisions into three types: individual decision, group decision, and habitual decision. Now, what is individual decision? These are the decisions pertaining to an individual. They are of personal concerns only. Education of a child is a classic example. When you are passed out from a high school, you have three alternatives. You could go to a college, or you could sit at home waiting for a marriage, or for a full-time employment. You choose the alternative of going to the college. This leaves the choice among colleges you could attend. You choose among your alternatives. This process is continued. Each decision resulted in a new choice being made among the available alternatives. Thus, one goes through the process of decision making. The individual decisions are more quickly made than group decisions. The decision making of an individual revolves around the values, goals, standards, and the roles of an individual assumes in the relevant set of the framework. Now coming to the group decision. So group decisions are made from collective action of several individuals, each of whom have their own values, goals, standards, and role perceptions. This makes group decision making a very difficult process. All the same, more alternatives tends to be suggested and unprotective approaches are identified and eliminated because the experience of many people act as a guiding points in the process of selecting the best alternative. The development of group decision is a slower process than the individual one. It is more difficult because each individual enters the setting with their own characteristics, values, goals, standards, and roles. Now coming to the habitual decision. These types of decisions are the lowest of level of decisions. Once an individual is trained to do a systematic work, he will follow that throughout his life. Some people get up at 6 o'clock in the morning every day, regardless of the time they go to bed. Essentially, they are routine, repetitive actions related to daily activities. The choice is automatic because the criteria are well established and no fresh decisions are involved when you have to consider alternatives. Once it becomes a habitual choice, the resultant action is quick and spontaneous. For some people, even purchasing of some consumer products becomes a habitual decision, while others it might be a conscious choice among many different brands. Now we are coming to the last part of our topic. Now, resolving conflicts. There are different methods of resolving conflicts with different level of harmony. So we have the lowest level where the least inner agreement is there. Then comes the next higher, and the last one is the highest, where there is complete agreement between the two parties. So in methods of resolving conflict, the struggle and victory on one side, which is resulting in the dominance of one person, is the lowest level of harmony. The second one is voluntary submission on one side. The third one is compromise. And the fourth one is either integration or conversion or acceptance of the differences. So dominance as a method of resolving conflicts. As the name indicates, among the two sides in a group or one-to-one situation, one side demands and the other side is forced to obey. In such a situation, the inner feeling of the two sides regarding action are far apart from each other during the conflict as well as after the conflict. Although one side may win, schematic presentation would make this point clear. By looking at the diagram, it is clearly understood. And the second method of resolving a conflict is voluntary submission. As the name suggests, in this method of resolving conflict, one of the two sides, one wins and the other side voluntarily submits to the other. But understanding between the two sides is greater than what is in the case of dominance. And the picture clearly demonstrates it. And the third method is compromise. Compromise means a settlement of dispute or conflict by mutual concession or arbitration. This is often considered to be the most desirable to reach. In this method of resolving conflict, there is voluntary yielding on both sides without an essential harmony of inner feeling or even resolution of fundamental differences. Now, next one is integration. So integration means to remove any barriers imposing segregation upon any group. This is the highest level of settling conflict. In this method, both sides creatively reach a new solution together with which concerned are satisfied. In this process, the group tries to find out the points on which the agreement exists and points on which there are genuine differences. Now, the next method is conversion. It is possible that after dominance or voluntary submission or even compromise, the one who has submitted wholly or partly can change his or her mind or point of view at that time or later and accepts the views of the opponent party. This may happen at the time of conflict or even at a later time. And the last method of resolving conflict is the acceptance of the difference. In many cases of conflicts, when reasonable or acceptable solutions cannot be reached, the group may decide to adjust the conflict through acceptance of the difference. In this process, the members reach harmony of the inner feeling as it is in the integration, but the way is different than that. The individual differences are given due respect voluntarily by both parties, which may be satisfactory as unified action. Thank you for listening to my class. I have given a quiz in this topic, which is attached in the description below, and references are also given for your future understanding. Thank you.